Hello and welcome to part 4 and the final part of lesson 7.2.4. If you have not already watched parts 1, 2, and 3, please go back and watch them now. They will be linked in the description below. So in part 4, we'll be looking at problem 7-155. So please go ahead and read problem 7-155 now. Now that you've read the problem, let's talk about what it's asking you to do. So it's asking you, when you look at a graph and prepare to write an equation for it, do you think it matters if you choose sine or cosine? So when you're looking at this graph right here, do you think it would matter if you choose sine or cosine, which also happens to be part A? And which one do you think will work best? So let's wait on answering those until we write at least, let's start with 1, and then we'll write 1 together, and then you will write the rest, the final 3, by yourself. So pause the video now and try to find one equation that you can write for this graph at the right. Pause the video now to write one equation for the graph at the right. So now that you've written an equation for your graph, let's look at it together. So if we look at it with no horizontal shift, it starts at a low point. A graph that starts at a high point is a cosine, so if it starts at a low point, it would be a negative cosine. The midline is the x-axis, so it's at 0. And it seems like the amplitude goes from the low point to the midline, which is 2. And the period, so the distance to the next low point, is 2 pi. So if I would write one equation, I would write y equals, it's flipped, so negative. My amplitude is 2, so 2. We're using cosine in this case, so cosine of my b is equal to 2 pi over, sorry, my period, 2 pi is equal to 2 pi over b. So b is 1 because 2 pi equals 2 pi. So that means b equals 1 times x. We're looking at it as if there's no shift. So 1 times x. And we're saying the midline is at 0, so plus 0. So this is one equation we could write for this graph. Go ahead and find if you can write 3 more equations for this graph at the right here. I'm going to erase what I wrote on it so you can choose different points to look at. So one tip I would give you is to pick whatever you want to be your starting point. So I chose this point first, the low point. So pick what you want to be your starting point. If you want it to be like a middle point, a high point, a low point, and go from there. What's the period? What's the midline? What's the shift? And is it a sine graph or a cosine graph? And is it flipped? Okay, so please write these equations now on your own. And when you submit, I will see your equations. So I want to see your thinking in this problem. So pause the video now and write down your equations. Lastly, I want you to ask yourself, did it matter if you chose sine or cosine? And which of your equations that you wrote do you prefer and why? So please go ahead and answer these questions on your own because I want to see your thinking on this question. And when you submit your notes, when you take a photo of your notes and submit them, I will see your answers. So please answer these questions A and B on your own and submit them to me on Google Classroom. If you have any questions, as always, please log into Google Meets. Check with your teacher when your Google Meet is, and log into your Google Meets for your class. Thank you and have a great day.